Welcome everyone to Scheller Lunchtime Live, a live stream series hosted by the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. My name is Lindsay Kane, and I'm the Associate Director of Client Relationships for non-degree executive education programs. On select Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern, you'll have the chance to hear from Scheller faculty, student, and alumni speakers as they discuss relevant topics for the tech-driven digital age. At Scheller, we're proud to offer undergraduate, MBA, and PhD programs, along with open enrollment and custom executive education programs. It's my pleasure to introduce Tim Halloran, Senior Lecturer of Marketing at Scheller. Tim has built, directed, and consulted with some of the world's largest brands, including Coca-Cola, Home Depot, Kraft Foods, Procter & Gamble, Delta Airlines, Glaceau, Vita Coco, the NBA, and Turner Broadcasting System. Prior to consulting, Tim spent 10 years at Coca-Cola, leading multiple beverage brands. His successes at Coke include the national launch of Powerade sports drink and its sponsorship of the Olympics, co-development of Dasani bottled water, and the development of Coke's first internet marketing initiative with his work on Cherry Coke. He was awarded Innovator of the Year by Coca-Cola and named a Max Award finalist for innovation by Georgia State University. Tim's first book, Romancing the Brand: How Brands Create Strong, Intimate Relationships with Consumers, was published in 2014 and won the 2014 International Book Award for the Marketing Advertising category. Strategy and Business named it a Best Book of 2014. It won the 2015 Axiom Silver Book Award for Marketing Advertising PR and was named by Forbes as one of 7 actionable books for smart entrepreneurs. Today, Tim will discuss the importance of enhancing brand-consumer relationships and how new technology tools have changed the dynamics of how consumers engage. You'll learn why it's important to strengthen your brand's relationship with your consumer base and ways to leverage technology to get more consumers to fall in love with your brand. As always, feel free to ask questions in the comments section. Due to the size of the group today, Tim will address your questions after the session via LinkedIn instead of a rush Q&A. Over to you, Tim.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. This is really exciting for me to be doing this. And I'm excited to talk to y'all a little bit about this concept of brands and consumers and relationships and how we as marketers need to think about brands and consumers in kind of a different way now that we have all these tools that technology brings us. So I'm going to start by sharing a quick little story that kind of got me into this whole thing, and then give you just a little bit of background on this whole, what do you mean by a relationship between brands and consumers? And then importantly, I want to talk about today and technology's impact, how that's changing the ways that brands and consumers engage with one another, and what you need to do to kind of keep up with things, to make sure that your brand is hitting the consumer in all the touch points that you need to hit them. So let me go back. I think Lindsay mentioned I spent the first half of my career at the Coca-Cola Company, which was a fantastic experience. And at Coca-Cola, we want to know everything we can know about the consumer. We have all types of research coming in all the time, quantitative, behavioral. We do a lot of qualitative focus groups to really get inside both the heart and minds of our consumer base. And this is a story that happened to be in a focus group. And in this focus group, we had was a series of like 10 women, and it was exploratory. We were just trying to understand how they engaged with different soft drinks. And I'll never forget this. A woman picked up a can of Diet Coke, and she said, I drink 5 of these a day. And maybe you know someone like that, right? Maybe you are someone like that. But this, she basically said, I drink 5 of them a day. It's always at my side. It's there during the good times and it's there during the bad times. And she then went on about how it was there at her side a month ago when she heard that she had gotten a promotion from work, and a few months before that when she had gotten some bad news. But she said, I can depend on it. It's always there. And then she said something that was very interesting. And it was, I kind of think or equate Diet Coke as a boyfriend. It's there for me. And immediately we're like, wait, she just called Diet Coke a boyfriend, really? But the idea behind that, and looking into it and doing some research, there's been a lot of research out there that brands and consumers actually engage in relationships. And so some of these relationships are they run the gamut, right? I mean, some of them are almost like being a prisoner, right? I mean, I've heard stories about this. You're stuck with a brand, maybe it's your cable company or whatever, and you don't have any alternatives and you just feel like you're abused by this brand. But on the other side of the equation, right, are these brands that we feel so powerful about that we're willing to wear them on our shirt. We're willing to drive them. We tell people about them. And if something happened to that brand, we would feel a sense of loss. If it went away or it changed, we'd be a little upset. And so that's kind of this idea of why not the extent, and it's a very aspirational goal, right? But in general, our goal should be to get more customers to fall in love and stay in love with our brands. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to use this as kind of a metaphor. And brand consumer relationships, if we can get people to fall in love with our brands, we're going to see a lot of benefits, okay? First, they're going to find more value in them. They're going to ultimately pay more for them, right? Those passionate people that really want to be aligned with our brands, they're not going to settle for anything else, which brings me to my second point. Again, to use the relationship analogy, they're going to be less likely to cheat. In other words, think of a competitor. They come out with a new promotion or a new advertising campaign or some new and improved formula or whatever it happens to be. Well, that's kind of the equivalent of, the hot little number or the big hunky guy walking across walking right in front of you. But if you're really into who you're into, right, from a relationship perspective, so if a consumer's really into the brand they're into, they're not even going to notice that noise, that competitive noise. So they're not going to cheat. They become advocates and evangelists. And this becomes very important as we start moving into technology and how people spread the word. Think about the first time you might have fallen in love or you just got so excited about that, right? You wanted to tell the world how great this person was that you were aligned with. Same thing with consumers and brands. If we can get our advocates and evangelists to start spreading the good news about our brand, and they are a credible source, it becomes that much more powerful. And finally, they're going to buy more from you more often. And so lots of benefits. There's only one problem, though. It's getting more and more challenging to have any type of meaningful relationship with consumers. Technology has changed things. How has it changed it? Well, we have gone from a situation where the marketers were in control, right? We would be shouting from the mountaintop. I remember back, in my brand management days at Coca-Cola, you would buy television and print and radio and the outdoor, and you could capture everybody. But we were shouting at the consumer, right? We were telling them our message. Today, it's less about us telling them a message and more about us engaging in a conversation with all these various devices that consumers can talk back to us with. So we've gone from dominating the airways to being invited guests. And that becomes important for how we need to think about our relationships with consumers. A strong brand, if marketers can be provocative, if marketers can be entertaining, guess what? You can remain in that conversation. But if you're not, the consumer has every right to move on without you, to ignore you. And that's where we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how we build brand relationships today in the context of this new world that we're living in. So 3 quick steps I kind of want to tell you about that we're going to kind of use for the rest of the presentation. And I use a relationship metaphor because I think it works. And we know from research that consumers view us and view brands in a relational context. First idea, got to know yourself. And we'll talk about each of these individually. Then you got to know your type, and then you got to create the bond. And if you can do that in 2021, you get engagement. You get consumers interacting with the brand. And that's really what it's all about. So first one, know yourself. How many times have you heard some relationship guru go in and say, well, you really can't be involved in a strong relationship unless you really know what's special about yourself and what you really love yourself and know what you have to offer to someone else. Okay, well, same thing with brands, right? We got to know what we are really all about. And the marketers out there are going to recognize this brand pyramid. As such, you really start with features and attributes. This is the historic or the traditional one, but it's changed. I'm going to get to that in just a second. We start with kind of the product features and attributes, right? These specific product descriptors, right? Nike, the air cushioning in Nike, right? The waffle sole of a Nike tennis shoe. These are a running shoe. These are all kind of attributes. Those lead to functional benefits, right? What the brand does for me. Okay, Nike, the air in Nike running shoes are going to cushion my run, make me feel more comfortable, less foot fatigue, all that type of stuff. That leads us into what we call emotional benefits. Now, this is traditionally how the brand makes me feel, okay? The feelings that the brand gives me. And we think about this, using my Nike example, the confidence, right? Just do it. This shoe brand is going to enable me to have that confidence to be able to finish that marathon or that 10K or whatever it is I'm running. And then finally, it all ladders up to a core essence, right? This is kind of that short phrase that describes the brand in a timeless way, right? Walmart's all about low prices. Volvo's all about safety. Disney's all about magic. Coca-Cola's all about happiness, right? That idea. But in this day and age, this brand pyramid has changed, okay? We still have those product features and attributes and functional and emotional benefits, but I've added 2 layers into this pyramid, okay? The first one is personality. We have got to create a personified brand if we were thinking almost like it is a human or a person. Because if a consumer can relate to a brand's personality, they feel that much more stronger about it, and it offers them social cachet. Social cachet being that badge value. I feel so strongly about this brand that I'm going to recommend it to others, that I'm going to wear it, that I'm going to put my career on the line by, even if it's in a B2B kind of space, by accepting and using this particular brand. So we need to think about it in terms of badge value. So these 2 extra levels here, and then of course, core essence doesn't change, but we've added 2 levels. And this is where the brands that will succeed in the 21st century will focus their efforts on, because it will enable you to make a connection with the consumer. And these new touch points throughout technology, we have to get it right. We have to get this brand character right, this persona correct. We have to be authentic, because we are now touching consumers and engaging with consumers in multiple ways. So the question I always ask when I talk to people about, and they have brand issues and whatever, is I actually have them sit down and answer some key questions, because if they can't answer it, they're in trouble, right? You got to know things like, if your brand was a person, what kind of car would they drive? What would be their occupation? What would be their hobbies? What do they look like? Where they go on vacation? All these political views, and importantly, their personality. And here's where it gets important. Being real and authentic and having a genuine personality will connect you better with your consumer base. I'm going to give you an example right now. Wendy's, okay, this just happened a couple weeks ago, National Roast Day, but Wendy's, if you aren't following Wendy's Twitter account, you need to do that, because it is hilarious, number one. And let me just kind of share with you, I'll just this was featured on the Today Show a couple of weeks ago, that the idea is National Roast Day, and Wendy's took part of that.
The Wendy's Twitter account is known for being, whether you knew that.
Whoops. Sorry.
The Wendy's Twitter account is known for being, whether you knew this or not, it's very funny, very quick-witted with its responses online. And for the totally real holiday, National Roast Day, Wendy's decided to roast anybody who replied to their tweet, and there were some good ones. We've compiled them here. Now, replying to Velveeta, they're all official accounts of companies and people and whatnot. So this is Velveeta's official Twitter account. Wendy's wrote, "How are you a verified account when you're not even verified?" Wow. Here's another one replying to the Twilight Movies Twitter account with a blue check mark. Wendy's wrote, "Name an actor who isn't trying to live down being in one." Wow. That's going to leave a mark. Some accounts actually tried to fight back, but Wendy's roasted Oreos, the cookie company, by tweeting, "New flavor idea, don't." To which Oreo responded, "We get it. Flavor isn't for everyone."
Oh, snap.
Wow. Wendy's wouldn't take that, and Wendy's responded, "And some of these flavors aren't for anyone."
Man.
Al, you're not going to like this. Little warning. Meteorologist David Walter wrote, By National Roast Day, do you mean the delicious roast beef sandwiches from Arby's? Do that to Wendy's. Wendy's wrote back. By meteorologist, do you mean the talking suit who reads the work done by forecasting computers? True.
That's a sick burn.
How about that? They're really funny.
I don't know, Wendy's.
Oh, yeah. Their social managers.
They've gotten into some burger wars with their competitors.
Wendy is sassy.
Wendy is sassy. I love that. Savannah says that at the end there, you know, and it really is important that Wendy's has gone and established this fantastic personality, and it's bringing it out in multiple channels. Here's another one about Groupon, which is kind of funny, but they paid it off, right? They paid off this day by saying, hey, that was fun. We're going to give you a free Frosty. It's in your Wendy's app. Go now to a Wendy's store and pick up your free Frosty. Of course, we won't mind if you buy a hamburger and some fries as well. But the idea here is that it's in multiple touch points, and that personality continues to show up. Let's keep going. So, you know, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you want your target to say, you know what, I want to hang out with this brand. You know, however your target, whatever, which gets me to my next point about knowing your type. You need to create something that's going to appeal to that target. So knowing your type, right? We always want to know about who that target consumer is. Not everybody, but that key individual that is going to be our core user, the one who we really want to establish this relationship with. So how do we use technology, right? Again, we do a lot of information, a lot of insights, and I'm not saying to go away from surveys and focus groups and those types of things, right? But we need to go beyond that. And our tools and technology enable us to do that, right? And you've heard of social listening, right? There's social monitoring and there's social listening. And I kind of think of them as two different types of insights, right? Social monitoring, I kind of like to think of as similar to quantitative research, right? It's going to answer the questions, how many? We are tracking things over time. We're tracking brand mentions, category and competitor mentions, hashtags, the engagement rate, right? Strict numbers. We're looking for trends. We're looking for dips. We're looking for changes. But of course, we want to understand the whys behind it. And that's where social listening takes place, right? This is the qualitative. We're trying to understand the whys. You know, why are they? What are they saying about you specifically? What's the context? What's the mood, or we like to call that sentiment? Who are those influencers that are out there? Who are my biggest fans, and why are they my fans? And then what are the types of engagement that are taking place? How are they engaging? Are they just liking something? Are they sharing it? Are they co-creating a message? And that becomes important with a point I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. But if we can do this, we get that much closer to understanding them and starting a relationship. Okay. And social listening also provides to us opportunities, real-time opportunities. And here's an example of that. I'm going to share with you this quick video. Hopefully make sure you're turning your volume up on these so you can hear them. But this is L'Oreal, okay? And an opportunity they found with a unique hairstyle that came out a year or two ago.
Now in the new context of digital, the great thing is that it's easier for the consumer to be even more immediate at the moment of inspiration. My name is Judy Chamberlain, and I'm the VP of Marketing for L'Oreal Paris Hair Color. We started seeing this look on celebrities and on fashion runways, the ombre look. So then we turned to search to find out, is the everyday woman knowing about this look, and if so, she's searching for it and how. We saw a considerable rise in search terms for ombre hair, dip dye hair, but what was clearly missing was an application tool, which signaled to us that L'Oreal could come and fill a need in the consumer marketplace to get ombre at home. 50% of the consumers who bought ombre were new to the category, huge success. So it's really building that trust with our brand that we're going to bring those solutions to her every time. We stayed close to the consumer and used our surge data really along the whole consumer journey. From the product development stage to what kind of content we were going to serve to her, under what message and in what mediums. We call it marketing nirvana. I mean, if we can find out when is she searching, what is she searching for, and therefore what is the right message to serve her in what medium. I mean, it's really beautiful for everyone.
Okay, so, oops. Do that again. So the idea here, right? Social allows us to find opportunities for new products, find new target opportunities, new need opportunities. And this is a great example of that. So you have to keep listening, okay? And so a couple of tips on this, right? First of all, cast a wide net, okay? Right? You want to go and look at different areas, tertiary areas that are close to what your brand is, but kind of a step or two away as well. But you can't get overwhelmed with the information, right? We don't go and, if you're Coca-Cola, you don't go and talk to individual people on the street and ask each individual person what their brand choice is, right? But you do sample, right? You do sample. Think about social monitoring and social listening in a sample kind of way. Get a robust sample to kind of understand what's going on. Don't forget about the power of inference, right? As marketers, our job is to take what people say and then find the opportunity behind it, right? It goes back to the classic quote that's attributed to Henry Ford about, if I had asked people what they wanted, I would have built them a faster horse, okay? You've got to take the step in hearing what they're saying and then taking it and applying it to how your brands and products and what the opportunities are for those. Real-time feedback, obviously, you have to strike while the iron's hot. And monitoring, right? You want to trend it out and you want to look for changes and disruptions. And finally, don't ignore visuals. I think that's important because, if you're searching for terms, right, a lot of people, 80% of images, like if I show a Starbucks cup, I may not say tag it with Starbucks, right? So you got to think about images as well, because often people are going to show themselves through, all the various now image-based apps and social media programs without tagging it. So another important way to think through it. Finally, the last thing, and we got a few minutes left, I want to talk about creating the bond, okay? So this is, now you know yourself, now you know your type, time to create the bond and drive engagement. So one of the things, getting back to the relationship analogy that I always like to talk about is that, we're in different stages. Brands and consumers are in different stages of a relationship, right? It's not like everybody is in the same place. And you could really mess this up, right? I mean, you don't think about your world. You meet someone and you're talking, you're hitting it off with them, you're talking for like 10 minutes. You don't just say, hey, you want to go to Europe, right? You don't do that. That would just be inappropriate. So why should our brand messages be any different, right? If someone is just now starting to try us out and get interested in us, we're not asking them to go on a trip to Europe or marry them or anything like that. So we need to think about communicating where the consumer is. And we have to think about it in terms of special experiences, right? So let's say I'm dating someone. This just came out. I just found this morning. And thank you to someone who found this for me. Cadbury is now hiding, for Easter, is hiding on an Easter egg hunt, hiding eggs on Google Maps. Okay, so look at this. Very cool.
Wouldn't it be lovely if you could hide an Easter egg anywhere in the world for someone you love? Could be that place where you both went every year, or where you've both always dreamt of going back to. Hide an Easter egg for someone you love. Search Cadbury Worldwide Hide.
So again, really, really cool stuff, right? You're now integrating Google Maps, you're sharing things with people. So it really is a dead on, this is, you're trying to wow your consumer at this stage, right? You're dating them. You may have a very different message if you are in a relationship rut or you are on the verge of breaking up, right? But this is very much a wowing kind of message, right? Obviously, We can micro-target now. Our tools and technology enable us to do that. Create the right offers based on where you are in the relationship, based upon your consumer's history. My wife and I are Starbucks fans. Here's my Starbucks as I'm talking to you right now. And sometimes we compare offers, right? I mean, this is my offer, right? The same exact, we did this within 4 minutes of each other, right? Mine was about getting chai tea, order any latte and get stars. Hers, she was a little more rich, but they wanted her to order a sandwich. Maybe she hadn't bought a sandwich in a while. And what's interesting is sometimes we play each other off and we get whatever the best deal is. Like I never have a chai tea latte, but my wife does. But sometimes I'll find I get a better deal than she does on that. But we're not like most consumers. We're kind of, I'm a marketing professor, so I kind of look at this kind of stuff. But your order can be customized. Starbucks does a great job of that, right? And really creating something that feels very personalized based upon your own purchase history. Finally, you want to use advanced technology when it makes sense, okay? I'm going to play just a second of this from Lowe's, which is really interesting.
Education is empowerment, and people learn by doing. It's just how we are built. And that's why we built the Halloran How-To. The Halloran How-To is virtual reality training tool that teaches people how to do DIY projects when they want to learn. Anything from painting a fence to tiling a bathroom, you actually are grabbing tiles, water, sponges. It feels like you're actually there and doing it. It's very neat. I love doing it myself. I've done it 3 times and I'll do it again. Lowe's has been using virtual and augmented reality for years now. The Halloran How-To project takes us even further. We did an A/B test and half of the customers went through the virtual reality Halloran How-To and the other half just watched the YouTube video. Customers who went through the virtual reality version had 36% better recall. The potential is endless. DIY should be fun, and that's what customers come here to improve their life. This is something nobody else has. This is a big, big deal for us. Teaching, learning, education, that's it. Even if we can unlock just a little bit of that mystery, this will have a massive impact and a change that I don't even fully understand.
So again, really cool, right? Lowe's is using an advanced technology, right? Virtual reality, but they're playing the role of a teacher and they're helping make what is the scariness of these projects, the unattainableness of them, making it more attainable. So again, meet your consumer where they are. And by the way, someone is going to say, well, gosh, Tim, this is all fun and cool and you marketers like to do your fun things, but does it drive volume, right? And interestingly enough, we have found, and this is the actual research I'm working on right now with a colleague. It's kind of a working paper, so you get a preview of it, right? But we asked the question, does the type of engagement that someone has drive purchase frequency? So we did a fast casual restaurant study. We did a field study in a brand you would know very well and asked people, look, do these engagements have any impact on purchase frequency? So we did this test where we looked at a control period where we saw people's visits by individual on an app. Then we looked at whether they engaged and how they engaged on Facebook. And then we measured their purchases afterwards. And we looked at over 1,000 engagers and looked at the typical Facebook type of engagements, commenting. We couldn't use share actually because of privacy data, but we looked at a lot of these emojis. And what we saw was very interesting. All engagements aren't equal. Some actually predict increases, positive comments. If you make a positive comment on something, we found that it predicts an increase in volume. If you use the love emoticon on Facebook, it predicts increases. And if you use a negative comment, obviously you're going to stop. You're mad. You're not going to be pursuing that anymore. There was no significant difference at all on things like likes and wows and ha-has and even tagging someone else. Okay, so those of you that measure your social media by likes, stop doing it. It doesn't mean anything as far as volume. Okay, you need to have more engagement. And we can see over time, you're going to find that if you apply a business model like a $12 check, you're going to see that those that are engaging in a positive way will see increases in sales. So it does ultimately mean something. So finally, I want to quickly summarize what we have here. The game has changed, okay? So marketers no longer have control of the dialogue. You've got to work with technology because consumers are now as equal or maybe even larger participants in the conversation. You got to know yourself, what you stand for, and being authentic in all touch points with your consumers. And you got to create something that's going to appeal to who you are targeting, knowing your type and finding opportunities, not just through traditional research, but through social listening. And finally, you want to meet consumers where they are in the relationship, right? Technology enables us to create the right messaging and offers. And you want to obtain the right type of engagement, right? And that enhances your chances of incremental purchases. So I really have enjoyed it. Please contact me, link in with me, email me if you have questions, my Twitter, all that type of stuff. Please feel free to do that. And I also want to do a quick pitch to something else we're doing here at Scheller next Friday, if you have a few hours. Our annual Marketing Innovation Conference is going to be here. It's virtual, but we have some great speakers from BET, Truist, Delta Airlines, TikTok, Spotify, all talking about how they're engaging in marketing in this pandemic and what they've done differently and how you market in these turbulent times. So please look at that and register for it. We'd love to have you. All it is you getting on your computer screen like we're doing right now. So I'll give it back to you, Lindsay.
Thanks, Tim. Really looking forward to the Marketing Innovation Conference, especially after today's discussion. Really exciting. So a quick reminder to our audience, Tim will address your questions via LinkedIn comments, so check back then. Our next Scheller Lunchtime Live session is Friday, March 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern. The topic is COVID-19's impact on firm equity valuations, featuring Professor Alex Hsu. Alex will discuss how the collapse in economic activity from COVID-19 affects equity valuation in the cross-section of firms and the channels that propagate and affect firm-level outcomes. You can register for this event and learn more about future Scheller Lunchtime Live sessions by following the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business on LinkedIn. A recording of this session and future sessions will be available on our LinkedIn and YouTube pages as well. Thank you all for joining us.